Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today. This is coming from the test server, part of episode 44, Sins of Black Adam. This is now looking at the new artifact, Heart of Isis, that is coming with the release. Now I will apologize for the delay in this video. It's more so that this artifact, if I'm going to be real with you, has been the most stressful testing and like that I've ever experienced with any artifact, like ever. So, and like the DLC comes out in 3 days, and at the time of this video comes out in 3 days, and this artifact is essentially like Frieza from like Dragon Ball Z. We have no idea the final form of this artifact. There are so many things like aren't working as intended, coming like quotation mark coming the next update, things that like don't even make sense or contradict what we've been told. It's basically, think of like, I mean, it's just difficult to describe, I swear. Like, describing this artifact is super simple. Like, I'll touch on spreadsheets, I'll touch on what I can do. 1000%, I'm going to have to do a follow-up update with this artifact once we know the final form, because I'm not doing justice. I am doing justice to the artifact because this is what's presented to us, but I'm not doing justice to the community in this aspect because I cannot give you like any kind of proper testing or in-depth review or breakdown of this artifact because there's so many question marks. So the concept of this artifact, and I'll touch more like in a more example in a sec, but describing this artifact is something super simple. You equip this artifact, you gain a supercharge that cycles through 7 different supercharges and grants different abilities to each role, each supercharge ability. Sounds pretty simple. Sounds OP. And then you can actually get into it, and it's like, oh my god, it's like everything in like the kitchen sink has been thrown into this one artifact. There's like 20 different things working at once. It just doesn't work out. So let's hop to the spreadsheet. I'll explain this a little bit more, and then we'll touch on the actual abilities, because you can't just describe this artifact in words. There's got to be shown as well. So let's jump there, then we'll jump back. Okay, so just kind of easier to explain this here. The artifact at 200, basically 765 might, that's the same with like Scrap of Soul Cloak, 478 Prec, that's like the same as Quizlet. Gives 3% health, power, restoration, might, and precision across the board. And obviously it'd be lower percentages throughout the lower level of the ranks. And then basically what this artifact does is once it's equipped, it gives you the 7th Shazam ability. So Wisdom of Solomon, Strength of Hercules, Stamina of Atlas, Power of Zeus, Courage of Achilles, Speed of Mercury, and then an exclamation mark, which is the Word of Power. So how does this work? So right off the bat, which is going to be a little bit confusing because it's not in the text of the artifact, this artifact does not work at all unless you have Word of Power, the iconic ability spec. And I'll show that an example in the game once we hop back to it. But step 1, you level up the artifact. Step 2, essentially, or step 1, is that you have to spend a skill point on Word of Power. Then once you've done that, you'll see in the UI on the right-hand side of your screen, you've learned Word of Power, you've learned Wisdom of Solomon. And then you go into your loadout, and then you'll see an extra supercharge ability that you can use. And then the drawback here is that as you cycle through the 7 abilities, continually through the UI, you're going to learn this the entire time. So I'll get to that example in a sec. In terms of, since it is a supercharge ability, so basically I'll show in the game as well, but there are some abilities that have tied to a 1000 supercharge, and then there's some that aren't. So like the S is 1000 supercharge, the H would be 1000 supercharge, A is just a power cost, Z is 1000 supercharge, A is 1000 supercharge, and then M is a power cost or no power cost. Well, we'll touch on that. And then the exclamation mark is a supercharge cost. So in all reality, this Heart of Isis is a 5000 supercharge. But it breaks it down individually. So how does that actually affect? So in terms of using your extended supercharge chest mod or Scrap of Soul Cloak, the S will proc 0 regen, but it will proc the actual chest mod. And the convoluted fact here is that Wisdom of Solomon is 1000 supercharge, but since it acts as like a 5000, you're getting the 5000 supercharge value returned by Scrap of Soul Cloak and the chest mod. So I mean, technically you could It'd be difficult, but I mean, you could find a way to cheese it where you could hit Wisdom of Solomon, which is a 1,000 supercharge with Scrap of Soul Code, get 5,000 worth of supercharge regen, and then swap back off Heart of Isis into something else. And then basically you just got yourself 4,000 worth of supercharge regen for free. I'm not. It sounds easier to cheese it on paper, but in practicality, with how all this works, and I don't think it'd be a huge issue. But after that, Strength to Hercules gives a small regen based on the 1,000. So does Atlas. So does Zeus, which is also a bit weird because Strength of Atlas is not a supercharge; it's a power cost, but it's giving supercharge regen. So, I mean. You're going to see this like Nick Young meme throughout this video, because that's basically my face the entire time I'm trying to test this artifact, between like stressing myself out and like just laughing at like the testing. You're going to see that a lot. So Courage of Achilles, once again, for some reason grants the regular regen and then its own regen for an extra 210. This is what we call proficiencies. And then Speed of Mercury gives 0 because it should, because it's not actually supercharge. And then Word of Power gives 0 as well, even though it is a supercharge. However, the exclamation mark can also proc the extended supercharge chest and Scrap the Soul Cloak, depending on your timing, because it's every 30 seconds, the internal cooldown. And then other artifact abilities that proc off supercharge, except for Eye of the Gemini. This does not stack with Eye of the Gemini. So basically, I would have to go through SHAZAM, and then once I hit the exclamation mark, it would proc like Quizlet. So the leveling is, at least how it's described in the forums, rank 80, and then rank 20 you would get the Empowered Strength of Hercules, Empowered Zeus Stamina of Atlas, Empowered Courage of Achilles, and Wisdom of Solomon. So that doesn't seem to be working correctly. I mean, rank 80 you get all the abilities, unless he's referring, or Maro, the developer, is referring to these Empower ones as the extra abilities down the road. Once again, that's why the Nick Young meme is there, because I'm not sure what he's trying to tell us there. It could be, so at rank 80, you get all the effects, all the 7 supercharge abilities. And so this is technically the most powerful rank 80 artifact we've ever had, because it seemed to make sense that if you have rank 80, you only get like the, say, S and H. And then rank 120, you get like the extra, you get H, S, H, Z. And then rank 80, you get the A and M. But that's not how it actually works out. So rank 80, you get full access, and then continuing. So who knows? Once again, who knows? So before I jump on to the individual abilities, let's hop back and actually show this in practice. Okay, so as I previously mentioned and just showed, let's actually show the breakdown of the artifact. So Heart of Isis, once I equip it, you can see here I don't have any abilities, nothing else. So I have to go to my iconic powers, spec Word of Power. And it briefly mentions it in the artifact description. It just says, transforming and empowering the Word of Power ability into 7 new potent abilities. It doesn't say like you have to spec Word of Power to be able to unlock this. So that definitely needs to change, because that's going to confuse a lot of people, because they're going to rank this up and it's not going to work. So now, as you can see in the right hand side, you learned Wisdom of Solomon. Now if I go to my loadouts, I have this new supercharge ability. And then now gets the supercharge here. And then as this does is basically you have to use this supercharge ability and it will cycle through each time. So if I use the S, now you see learn Strength of Hercules. I can use the Hercules attack, Stamina of Atlas. Now it's going to be Power of Zeus, Courage of Achilles, Speed of Mercury, and then the exclamation point. And then it goes back to the Wisdom of Solomon. So that's going to continually cycle. Each time you use the abilities, that's going to continually cycle. So it's just going to, fill up that UI on the side. You're going to have that completely always active on your screen, learning these abilities each and every time. So that may not bug some people. That's certainly going to bug me. But this artifact is heavily tied into the UI in this game, which is also the cause for some of these bugs. So, for example, if I See, for example, right now I have this exclamation point. If I go to my armory and spec, actually, you just saw it disappear. Interesting. Once again, Nick Young meme. I should have actually exclamation point because I hadn't actually used that ability yet. And now it just reverted back to the S. But either way, so for example, if as you can see, I've got both in here for some reason. So if I'm just going to use S. Let's just do this. Make it easy. So if I go to my armory right now and then imprint, just for the sake of the video, I'm going to imprint this ability, but because it's not the Wisdom of Solomon, which is the starting supercharge S, it's going to then has a chance to bug my armory because I'm imprinting something that's invalid. So we'll just imprint this. So I've imprinted the H. So now, for example, if I switch to like another armory, see, it says invalid tactic ability. Even though I do have Heart of Isis on, it's just blank. And then I would have to put the S back on. And if you're in combat, that's not going to work because then you won't be able to add that ability. So once again, it's just, there's so many aspects of this breaking. There's been cases where like I've had, we'll see if this actually works. Let me just get an ability here. So now we got Stamina of Atlas. Now if I go to like Infernal Conduct or any kind of warp, there's a chance for it to bug out again and then I lose that ability. So this time it worked. But same thing. Anything that has a chance to the eye. Say if I like relogged, like for example, we'll do this. So right now I'm at the Z, Power of Zeus. If I relog, and I mean I know these aren't the completely like I know Romaro can't fix a lot of these things because it's tied to the UI and that's completely separate from the artifact system. But at the same time, it's like you're asking for it with how this artifact works. So same thing. I relogged, it's gone. So the ability is completely gone. Even though I still have Heart of Isis equipped, it's completely just a blank inventory slot because obviously I don't have any supercharge, and so I can't use the Z. I can't. It should revert back to the S. It's just lagging here, loading. So it's just a blank inventory spot. So now it should revert back to the S because, or even it shouldn't. Obviously, it can't stay with the Z because I relogged, and it's not going to. This game's not going to remember that. But even then, it's not putting me back to the S as a default. It just as a blank ability because basically, since I'm consistently learning these new abilities, it just breaks the game because I've unlearned it. So it's just like foundationally as a level of this artifact, there's so many aspects of this that just foundationally breaking the game or just making it completely convoluted. So let's now touch on, as I've kind of previewed the 7 abilities, but let's kind of break down, actually show you what they do at this point. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll go through each of the 7 abilities and then we'll go back to the game to kind of show examples of them, at least how they're working currently. So Wisdom of Solomon, you get the 1000 supercharge cost, and basically each individual role, it's going to give you a different ability. So for example, if you're a controller stance and you hit this ability, you get 50% extra VIT for 10 seconds. If you are a healer, you get plus 2.5 critical healing chance. If you're a tank, you get 20% defense and 20% health for 20 seconds. Not sure why. I mean, it makes sense that 10 seconds is short, but it's weird that a tank gets double the amount of time as anything else. And then if you're a damage roll, DPS, you get 10% precision, even though it says basic attack as precision, and an extra 15% might for 10 seconds. So the other thing is that how this works, and it'll show an example too, since you're cycling through each of these abilities, oops, didn't mean to hit that. Since you're cycling through the S, yeah, the S is great, buffs your DPS. Everyone loves that. But then to get that again, you're gonna have to cycle through HAZAM exclamation point to get back to that buff. And then so you're gonna go through that 5,000 supercharge just to get back to the DPS buff if you want to keep that. So Strength of Hercules. Unleash the Strength of Hercules by rushing towards your target and dealing it heavy damage. It says it's single target, but it's not. It is a very tight cone, but it can hit multiple targets. And you can see here, It's I hit at rank 188,000 might. It crit for 160k. There's supposed to be bleed, I guess, coming in the next update. Once again, my confused face. So technically, the next update, whenever that comes, because this artifact releases in 3 days, TBD, it's going to pull nearby enemies and stagger them. It's going to set up a bleed, so like damage over time. It's going to be removal of dash and added regen to 8 targets, which I don't understand. Maybe health regen. I'm not sure what dash is. I've never heard that referred to before. Controller, weaker bleed, so weaker damage over time, and then a stacking defense debuff, which may or may not stack. He mentions that they could stack now. So once again, sounds completely OP whenever this next update is. So then we go to Stamina of Atlas, which is endure the Stamina of Atlas by gaining a temporary 70% reduction shield. And then once again, coming in the next update, TBD, Frieza's final form. Standard formula, no change. It's going to be 50% mitigation. DPS, the shield's going to be based on percentage of your might and prec instead of resto and dom. It's going to give a healer's going to give a 4-player shield with heal over time ticks for 6 seconds and be 50% mitigation. And then a controller, it's going to be yourself and the lowest HP shield. So not sure exactly what that's referring to. And it's the shield to yourself and the lowest HP. So yourself and the lowest HP player, kind of like a priority heal, just in a shield format. And then it's going to give power over time ticks for 6 seconds and be 70% mitigation. So that's not on test. That's just going to be coming eventually. That's why I can't even test this properly to show you guys, because like half the stuff isn't even there. It's just planned. Power of Zeus. Shock all surrounding enemies with the power of Zeus and teleport a short distance backwards. That was about 100k, 108,000 might. And then once again, TBD, self-heal based on the percentage damage, then AoE heal based on damage done, and a controller applies damage done debuff to target. So I'm not sure. I mean, how I would read that would be if it did 100k damage, it applies 100k debuff to the target. But I'm sure that can be right. Courage of Achilles. Unleash the damaging cone on enemies, inspire all group members, secondary stats. So basically, it does some damage, but then it applies the buff to all your surrounding allies and even pets. So the description is supposed to be between 10 and 20% vit, 10 and 20% resto, and 7 to 15% defense to all allies. It does apply to pets. You'll see in the animation on my example, but I mean, not sure. I guess it could buff pets technically, their defense, I guess. Speed of Mercury, gain the speed of Mercury, moving nearly the same speed in combat as out of combat. I mean, it's the same concept as, Zoom, the ally. And then the exclamation point, which is the word of power, call forth lightning damage and knock down nearby enemies. The surrounding lightning heals you and restores power over time to you and up 7 group members. And then electrifies enemies, which is essentially word of power. And then at rank 200, it also gives you 0.8 critical attack chance and then 10% critical ability chance for 10 seconds. And if you're a controller, incoming power healing, healer incoming healing 20 to 35%, and a tank is supposed to give a percentage of your health to allies between 10 and 20%. So that's what the 7 supercharged abilities do in Shazam. So as you can see, there's like just a laundry list of things for each different effect. I mean, this is really like 5 or 6 artifacts worth of artifact in one artifact, if that makes sense. Like there is so much going on here, and you're gonna think, oh yeah, this is completely OP, but it's still, I mean, from a support aspect, but you're still having to use these supercharged abilities that aren't going to proc out of the Gemini, so that pretty much makes it exclusion already for DPS. And then you have a whole bunch of abilities that really don't matter for DPS, but you still have to spend the ability to cycle through. So let's jump back to the game and kind of show these as like proper examples. Okay, so let's go through the Shazam examples. We'll switch some powers too, just to kind of show different aspects of it here. But it's not going to be perfect because it's not going to be like a proper DPS rotation. But either way, we'll start with Shazam. So right now, if we go to our combat log with some Solomon, it's going to give us those basic attacks. And then I do have Gemini on just to show you that it's not going to proc Gemini with any of these. So as you can see there, right away with Strength for Hercules is going to be an issue. Why? Because it's going to teleport. So the other hard thing to test is through. I have to go like cycle through all of them just to like get us back to Hercules here. So for example, if I'm DPSing anything, any kind of content, and I have to hit Strength of Hercules, it's going to lunge me at whatever the target is. So it's going to lunge me into the boss. So already as a DPS, you can't really use this ability. If you try to pull that off in like Elite or Elite Plus or anything like that, you're just going to get smoked because you've now lunged your target or lunged the boss. You're right in beside the tank, right in danger from any kind of AoE. Same thing. I mean, you can't even like use that if there's any kind of like lava or anything like that. I mean, there might be situations where like you can somehow cheese it to like get out of range or something like that, but I mean, the other funny aspect here, before you can touch anything else, these are supposed to be 3-second cooldowns, but you're literally seeing me cycle them through like every half second. So another like Nick Young meme, like, is there actually a 3-second cooldown between the supercharges? I guess there's not, because it's like a half second. So who knows? That could change. That might not change. Obviously, that changes the timing around if I could just spam it versus like having to wait 3 seconds. Not that you want to like necessarily move through the abilities that fast anyway, but same thing. Like if I am doing any kind of content, now I have to worry about being instantly lunged towards that. And let's go back to see if I can actually cancel it here. Once again, now I gotta cycle through everything as a tester. This is like super duper annoying. Okay, so now I'm about to hit H, and we'll just clip with my trinket and see if I can cancel the lunge here. So once again, you can't even cancel the lunge. So I clipped my trinket. I mean, great, it helped my damage. It was like 220k, which is still like, I mean, the damage aspect of it is fine. This is rank 200, and my might stats are about 188k. But at the same time, it's an unclippable lunge towards your target. So now we're looking at Strength of Atlas, or Stamina of Atlas, sorry, and this would be the 70% reduction shield. And you just saw the ability to disappear. Did it? Invalid tactic ability. So great. Just playing around the menu, as I'm doing it normally, we already got another example of it being bugged. So now, even though I was ready at Stamina of Atlas, now I have to go back and cycle through again, just so I can get back to Atlas again. And then we'll just pop over to Kondak. So it's just, it's almost not like a loss for words, I swear. Like doing the level of testing that I want to do, like individually and breaking down in depth, like it's so difficult with this artifact because like I said before, I don't even know what the final form of this artifact is, and there's so many different things for each different roles. I got to test everything 4 times. So we'll just get into combat here. And we got Stamina of Atlas, so it's a damage reduction shield. I mean, you can see the animation on you, this little cloud around you. So it's not like a 100% absorption shield. It's just a mitigation. One thing with like fire's immolation, which is still fine. I mean, and his DPS is still handy. It's going to be handy for like alert content, solo duos, whatever. I mean, raids is not going to really matter because you're not going to be taking the damage anyway. I mean, you can't skip the ability, so you're going to have it anyway. So you could, if there's some kind of like damage over time effect in the raid, then that could be helpful then. So the next one is going to be Power of Zeus. So shock all surrounding enemies, and then teleport a short distance backwards. So now we have one ability that, oh, I just broke it again, didn't I? Yeah, just by going into your loadout, I just broke that. We'll have to get out of combat here, just to see if that'll be fixed. Remember, guys, this artifact comes out in 3 days. So let's see, is it actually going to work? Can I go back to Power of Zeus? Nope, invalid tactic ability. So I now have to go through, I have to put Shazam back on Wisdom Solomon, and now go through the entire thing all over again just to get back to where I was. Fun. Okay. So for example, if I'm right here getting attacked, I can hit the ability, and I get backwards a little bit. Which is odd because the lunge teleport is super aggressive. Like you go all the way forward. You saw I was at max range and it lunged. And now with the teleport backwards only sends me back maybe like 4 or 5 feet. So while that could be an issue, because say for example, if I, once again, we'll have to cycle through the abilities here. Like say for example, like I'm a distance away from the ads. Let's see if I can get it to work here. So we'll go over here. So say for example, I'm like using heat vision or whatever from range, and then of course they're gonna lunge me. You just, oh. I just want to show this example. Okay, whatever. I'm from range. The tank's holding them. I'm gonna teleport backwards. So if in a raid situation or anything with a tank, if I'm at distance using heat vision or any kind of ranged ability, or even like melee or anything else, that teleport could knock me out of that my ability range. So then I'm in gray range, and then I have to go back. Then I have to go back and actually, you know, get back to my position. And same thing, it doesn't matter if you're a DPS. I mean, if you're a tank, healer, it's the same thing. So that's the other aspect of it, is like, if you're a healer, you're going to have to lunge the boss as a healer, or lunge whatever your target is to be able to use that, and you can't cancel that without your heal. So then the same thing as like a tank, you're teleporting back. I mean, the tank teleport lunge is fine, because, I mean, you're there anyway. So taking a look at the next ability, Courage of Achilles, unleash the damaging cone on enemies in this bar. So this one, let's go back to legends here, because it's easier. Oh, of course, they just spawned on me. And I bet I just lost that ability, didn't I? I was in combat too. Why would it disappear in combat? Once again, guys. Lots of fun. And like, just imagine this happening like a raid or content. I mean, you could use this ability to lose it, and then you're in combat for the entire time and you can't put it back on. I mean, I could have tried to switch armories and see if that worked, but the same thing. If I switch an armory, it's going to bring me back to Solomon. Okay, so you see these other players here. This is going to be easy. We'll get back through. We're looking at the next one, sorry. Okay. So like I said before. Courage of Achilles. You see the buff? It went on that Colton character, and it went on the this character over here. And it would also go on pets as well. So if I put out like Robot Sidekick here. That's why I'm not sure entirely what the effect on pets will be, or why it's buffing pets. Because I mean, like a resto, even defense. I don't even know if pets have defense. Okay, so we'll cycle through this again. Oh, apparently now the 3 seconds is working. Nope. I mean, you guys literally saw that cooldown there for that was 3 seconds, and then apparently it's not applying for anything else. Okay, so now it's going to be on all 3 characters and a Robot Sidekick. So I'm not sure what that buff is applying to the pet, or if that's intended. I mean, if it buffed like the pet's health, I could see that. That'd be kind of nice, especially as like a pet DPS, or even as like a brick tank. If a brick is getting a buff, but I mean, like Dom and Resto and Vit, I mean, it has no effect on pets. So the next one, Speed of Mercury. This one is super easy to figure out as well. Well, actually, we'll go back to Condat, see if it bugs out my load up bar again. Which it did, like I said before. So just changing zones. Now I have to go back, cycle through the abilities again. This artifact is like the ultimate definition of like people, like you see a lot of the videos when this artifact came out, everyone's like, oh, it's going to change the meta. Like this is good. This is OP. It's going to change the meta so much because they're reading like on paper what the abilities are and not actually testing it in content. And then like you could see here me testing in content, the whole thing is just like convoluted all the hell. And like there's no way this is practically going to work at the moment, like at release. Okay, so let's just get in combat here. So obviously I'm slowed. I mean, I could use the super speed dash trick, but not everyone can do that. So now if I hit Mercury, you can see I'm much faster. I almost have like half the super speed mode. And you can see like on my feet, if you saw that, like there's like a purple icon on my feet. So we'll do it again here just so you guys can see. We'll cycle through the abilities again. So we're getting attacked. I'm slowed. I'm basically walking right now, trying to get away. I can hit speed Mercury, and then you can see here, I'm already back into my almost full super speed mode. So that's very handy, and you can see like the little purple feet animation. So that's handy. I mean, yeah, it's a kind of a wasted animation time. I'd rather just be no animation, the little backflip thing. But I mean, that is handy for, I mean, it's handy for, I guess, for tanks, or possibly if you're like in a DPS on the hallway, or like a flight or acrobats maybe, skimming. I mean, super speed doesn't matter. It's pointless anyway because we can do the dash trick, which is going to be way faster in combat. But once again, for like 90% of situations, it's going to be pointless to you as a player to use it because you're going to just be like dealing ads, or, you know, it's one of those things great on paper, like, oh, if there's like some kind of attack coming, or you could dash out of the way and get out of range. But I mean, you're not going to have that speed of Mercury just waiting there, waiting to do it. So let's go back to House of Legends, and let's show the exclamation point or word of power. So, funny enough, so you guys just saw that example as well. So I did have the exclamation point ready. I warped, and now it restarted at Wisdom of Solomon. And there's plenty of situations where you have to warp, or you're going to be in content, like different zones, like any kind of the operation, stuff like that. There's so many situations where this could bug out in raids if you have to zone, or go through any kind of teleporter, and then basically what, you just lost your supercharge. So now I have to go through all 6 abilities again just to get back to where I was. So let's kind of go through. There's no point really showing you the damage aspects. I mean, you can see it. I mean, the damage themselves is good. You see it here. Let's do the exclamation point. We'll just go to the 5 targets here. Make sure I'm in combat. Once again, I do have Gemini on. Now if I use this, so the damage is there. I mean, 200k, 90k, 200k, 200k, 85k. It is susceptible to crits, so it's going to be the synergy with a transformation card. So that ability does do a lot of damage because I mean, once again, you still have to think this is a 5,000 supercharge, so that is heavy damage for a 5,000 supercharge. I have to go to combat here just to be able to refresh it. So the other aspect of it here, so now I'm going to use it, and if we go to my combat log here, current effects, I have the critical ability attack chance and the critical ability. So not only do you get that damage from a supercharge, but then you also get increased damage on your next follow-up abilities, like your regular power set rotation. But at the same time, as a DPS at least, since none of this procs either Gemini, I mean, you're losing massive amounts of damage unless you're using either Gemini, especially with stacking Gemini, everything else, Berserk, whatever you want to include is. But so without, to say this is going to change the meta, it's not, at least as a DPS, because right now either Gemini is king. If you don't use it, you're literally losing millions and millions worth of damage, especially in like Gemini spam groups. So that's not going to change the meta. You're still going to have that used. I mean, sure, like elite, like event or regular content or whatever, it's going to be fine. But that's the same thing for everything. So damage potential wise. So that's where it's basically left at. Like I said before, it could be good for support roles. I don't know, because once again, we don't know the final form of this artifact. So that's why I cannot recommend at all, even in the slightest. Not even in the slightest to level this artifact. Because for one, you know, like when you buy a set of cards or like buy a poker deck, it comes with that little like extra card in the deck that basically gives you like the hand rankings. Like this is what like a straight would look like. This is what a flush would look like. It's like you need one of these cards with this artifact to have like taped to your monitor, like beside your PS5 or something like that. Like because you don't know by the description of in the artifact text what this actually does. You have to go through, read each individual like loadout in the supercharge, find out what they do. It's going to explain it differently for like tank, healer, controller. It's going to show different current effects in the current tab. So it's like you need a small kind of like novel just to kind of understand what this artifact does while you're using it. And even then, you guys saw before on the spreadsheet is that there's so many like next update or current or like coming soon with this artifact. It releases in 3 days, and like you already saw all the bugs on it right now. So this is an artifact that it's gonna have to wait for like like a double XP weekend and level it up and see if it'll work out. But I cannot even like remotely even consider telling you to level this artifact because of all the reasons that you've seen in the past, like in the previous 20 minutes. So, if you got any more follow-up questions, you can put in the comment section below. Once again, 100% I'll do a follow-up video whenever this gets like corrected, or at least at a point where like it's supposed to be working as intended. So until then, we'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care.